not listen to this scary story at nighttime or right before you're going to bed. Because I love you so much, I'm giving you this warning because what the fuck. So typically I listen to a lot of Spanish scary stories because I like translating them for you guys. I typically listen to these when my husband's asleep next to me and I'm just like scrolling story through story, right? I will say when I listened to this story, I got full body chills, right? But I was like, okay, cool, I'm saving this. This is gonna be a good ass story, and I just kept going. A lot of the times you guys ask me in my comments like, how do you sleep after reading all these stories? And I'm gonna be honest, I sleep perfectly well. Like typically I'm not scared, and I wasn't scared last night, which is why it's so weird that I had a dream about this fucking story. I guess this story really impacted me more than I thought. So I'm gonna translate the story for you guys, and then I'm gonna tell you the dream that I had at the very end. So there was this girl, she was around 15 or 16 years old, and she lived with her mom. Unfortunately, her mom lost her job and they had no money, so they ended up losing their house as well. So one of the mom's family members tells them that they have a house that they can live in because they didn't want them to be homeless, but unfortunately this house was like away from civilization. This house was in the middle of nowhere, surrounded by like hills and mountains, but since the mom and daughter had nowhere else to go, they accepted the offer and decided to go live in this house. They end up going to the house, and when they get there, they notice the strangest thing ever. Right in front of the door is this big ass tree. Like the tree was so big that when they would try to open the front door, it would be hitting that tree. So the mom thought it was really strange that the tree would be like right in front of the front door. So the people who actually gave them a ride to that house noticed the tree as well, and they told the mom that if she wanted to, they can also help her remove that tree so that it doesn't stop the front door from opening. And she agreed, so they decided to do it then and there. When they removed that tree, on the roots of like where the tree was growing, they see like a skeleton of a baby. The mom says that it looked like maybe someone had buried the baby a very long time ago because the bones of the baby skeleton were just being eaten by the roots of that tree. She said that they didn't end up telling anybody about it. She just, you know, had the tree removed, they saw that, and they just like moved on with their lives. Time passes, and in this house, it's a 2-bedroom home. It's a little small, but it does have a hallway that leads to both of the rooms. Both the mom and the daughter start hearing noises in the hallway, and they realize that it sounds like a little baby. She even said it doesn't sound like an animal, it didn't sound like a kid, there was no like steps walking, it sounded like a baby playing in the hallway. So the mom almost felt guilty because she felt like something had happened there. I mean, they found the baby bones, and she just felt really bad that maybe the baby ghost was there. So she started leaving out baby toys in the hallway. I already have chills. So after leaving the toys in the hallway, the mom says that they would then start hearing this baby playing with those specific toys that were left out for it. She mentions that nothing scary would happen, but she did feel that over time, the baby's energy was growing and growing. So one day, the mom and daughter get into a really big fight. And I mean, they were screaming at each other, like they were going at it, and the daughter ends up going to her room and like slamming the door, and mom also goes to her room and slams the door. So when the mom goes into her room, slams the door, and sits alone, she realizes that maybe she was a little tough on her daughter. Mom felt so bad and so guilty that she's like, I'm gonna go to her room and I'm gonna, you know, apologize and let's try to talk through it. So the mom goes and she knocks on her daughter's door, and of course the daughter didn't answer because she was pissed. After the daughter not answering her door, the mom still decided to open the door, and she starts off with, look, I really need to talk to you. And then she stays silent. The daughter was laying on her bed and she was like, what? That's when the mom was like, get up and come with me. And the daughter's like, what? And the mom's like, get up and come with me. The daughter's like, I thought you wanted to talk to me. And she goes, shut up, get up and come with me. So once the daughter realizes that something is going on because the mom was really seriously telling her to get up, she gets up. Her mom grabs her by the hand, they leave her bedroom, close her bedroom door, and the mom takes her back to her own room. So the mom explains that when she opened her daughter's door and told her, I need to talk to you, she looks at her daughter that's laying on the bed, and she sees a baby on top of her daughter's chest. She says that the baby was not a normal baby. When the mom was telling her daughter, get up and come with me, that baby would hold on to her daughter even tighter, looking at the mom and smiling at her. Oh my god, look at my arm. I think the reason why I imagine these stories in my head, so I'm seeing this shit like a movie in my brain. Can you imagine? She walked in there feeling so guilty that she got into a fight with her mom, tries to talk to her, and fucking sees a baby on her daughter's chest as she's telling her, get up and let's go. Baby hugs her daughter tighter while looking at her smiling. They left that house that night and never looked back. Didn't go back to investigate, didn't want to know what the fuck happened there, because at that point it wasn't just a little innocent baby ghost, because she saw a baby, but it was not a normal looking baby. Now for my dream. So in my dream, I'm laying in bed. Leave it to me to take naps in my dream too. And next to me is one of my exes, because my dream wasn't scary enough. And in my dream, I'm waking up because I'm feeling something crawling up my body. And when this thing finally gets to the very top, I see a scary looking baby with fucking crazy teeth. And you know how like in your dreams you can't fight, it's like slow motion? Well, as soon as I saw that face, my hand was like trying to push it away. I mean, the baby was like biting my hand, and I was like, what do I do? Because I'm moving so slowly. I was pushing that baby towards my ex, who was still asleep, because what the fuck, take him, not me. But this baby wouldn't give up. It kept trying to come at me, and to the point where I'm slowly moving my fucking head away. It doesn't sound as scary, but like it was fucked up in my dream. Okay, so the baby's still crawling, and once it's like face to face to me, I guess it like I got so spooked that I woke myself up. All it had to do was go to my ex, like, why the fuck would you want me? But no, I got really scared. I woke up and I was like, what the fuck was I dreaming about right now? Anyway, I hope you don't have dreams about this story.
If you're easily spooked and you don't want to spend the night questioning every noise that you hear in your house, don't watch this. Back again with another spooky, unexplainable story. I got an email from a follower that I'm going to call Sarah. Sarah shared that her and her fiance and their daughter decided to move in with her dad at his house in a rural town in Western New York back in 2022. At first, when they moved in, it was pretty uneventful, but after a few months, things started to get a little weird. So one night, Sarah and her fiance are home having a pretty quiet night. Her fiance's in the kitchen washing dishes, and she's all the way down at the other end of the hallway putting laundry away. All of a sudden, she hears him having a full-on conversation with somebody in the kitchen. She hears like a back and forth happening, and she's confused. She's like, who could he be talking to right now? So she walks to the kitchen and she's like, who are you talking to? And he was confused because he didn't even know that she had left the kitchen in the first place. He says he turned from the sink, saw Sarah standing from behind the island, and they were talking back and forth. So this guy had a full-on conversation with Sarah's doppelganger. They kind of in that moment realized, hey, I think we have a mimic. They move on, they try to forget about it, but more things start happening. Sarah said there was another time where she was home in the morning with her son, and she had just put him down for a nap. She was leaving his bedroom and walking by the basement stairs where her father's bedroom is. She heard her father talking to someone, so she figured that he was just on the phone. About 30 minutes later, she hears her dad pull into the driveway, and she's like, what the hell? I thought I just heard him. She goes and opens the door for him, and she's like, when did you leave? He's like, oh, like 8:30 this morning. And she's like, awesome. She said she kept that one to herself, but it freaked her out because she was home alone, but she clear as day heard her father talking in the basement. So yeah. She also told me this next story, which it freaked me out so much when I read it. Sarah said that there was one night that her and her fiance were getting the children ready for bed. Her daughter was kind of like following her around the house while she was putting laundry away and things like that. So she said, hey, why don't you go into the bathroom and wait for your dad to help you brush your teeth? She goes in the bathroom, and then Sarah walks away and starts doing whatever chores she's doing. Then all of a sudden she hears her fiance standing at the doorway of her daughter's bedroom, and he's got this annoyed tone in his voice, and he's like, oh my God, like, come on, I don't have time for this. Get out from under the bed. Let's go brush your teeth. So she like looks out into the hallway confused, and then she sees her daughter look into the hallway from the bathroom. And they're both looking at the fiance like, who are you talking to? And he looks and sees the two of them, and he's like, what? So he doesn't say anything. He just goes into the bathroom with his daughter and helps her brush her teeth. They put the kids to bed, and then later on, he tells Sarah that he saw what looked like their daughter run from the bathroom into the bedroom and under the bed. So this one scared them both pretty bad. I mean, mimicking her and her dad is one thing, but mimicking their kid is just like not okay. So her and her fiance believe that the house is theirs during the day, but it belongs to the spirits at night. She said that they feel a very obvious energy shift, usually around 10 or 11 o'clock at night in the house. and that multiple friends and family members who have stayed there also acknowledge this. They just do their best to be really respectful. They feel like those spirits were there before they got there, and they will probably be there long after they're gone. And the other thing is that they really try not to react much when things do happen, because Sarah and her fiance believe that ghosts really feed off of that reaction. They're trying to get a rise out of you, so if you don't give it to them, you know, you guys can basically coexist in harmony. I'm blown away by these stories, okay? She handles this so way better than I would if this was happening in my house. Have you ever had any weird stuff like this happen in your house? I would love to hear about it. So please send me your stories. I would love to make a video about them. Like and follow for more stuff like this. Okay, bye.
Gonna want to listen to this story, but trigger warning, I advise do not watch this in the dark or at night or sitting alone in your bed, because it will freak the shit out of you. This man goes to sleep with his wife and they're sleeping in bed, and around 3 o'clock in the morning he was woken up to this noise, and it sounded like the front door, like somebody was trying to like scruff or trying to get in through the front door. It has one of these front doors, when the door shuts it automatically locks and you have to have the keys to get back in the house. I actually have a front door just like this. So the first thing he does, he gets his phone and he opens the Ring doorbell app. And when he's looking at the camera in the app, he sees his wife is outside and at this point it was 3 o'clock in the morning, it was freezing cold, and she was standing there shivering, trying to get in the house. But his wife is laying next to him. So he turns over to this person who is laying in bed with him, and he shines a torch on her. And it is his wife. His wife is actually there and she's sleeping. She's fast asleep and she's fine. He checks the Ring doorbell app again and he's so confused because this woman looks just like his wife, but it's not his wife because his wife is laying next to him in bed. So as he approached the front door, and at this point he's thinking maybe it's a burglar or maybe it's somebody pretending to be his wife to trick him so they can get in the house. He does not open the door, but he shouts out, "Who is it? Who's there?" And this woman replied, "It's me. I've left my keys in my bag and I can't get in. It's freezing. Can you please open the door and let me in?" He froze because this woman sounded just like his wife. The exact same accent, same annotation. This woman literally was a photocopy of his wife. He replies, "Hold on a minute," and dashes back to his bedroom. To his wife? He shakes his wife awake, and of course when she wakes up she's really groggy, she's really tired, and he's like, "You need to see this." Shows her the Ring doorbell and this woman standing out there, and she's like, "Oh, when was this recorded?" He's like, "No, this video is a live video. This is happening right now." Explaining to her, he just spoke to this woman who looks and sounds exactly like her, his wife, and she said to him that she wants to come inside and she's freezing and that she just forgot her keys in her bag. So she ends up going downstairs. She's tired, she's pissed, she does not believe him. She opens the curtains and immediately shuts them as fast as she could because she's like, "What the hell? That is me." Both look at each other and they decide to speak to this woman outside. So the husband calls out, "What's your name?" And this woman outside replied with his wife's full name, including her middle name. He then asks, "What's your birthday?" And she gets it correct. He then even asked, "What do we have for dinner tonight?" And she replied what they had for dinner, plus saying that he cooked it, which was true. So the wife inside the house at this point is trying to control herself. She is freaking out, and the husband reaches over to her and says, "Ask it something only you would know." She's there thinking, what can I ask her? What can I ask her on the spot? Something that only she supposedly would know. Ask this woman outside, "The last time you went to your parents' house, what was the thing they changed about your bedroom?" There was a long pause, and the wife outside then goes, "Who is that? Is there someone else with you? Who's that there speaking?" She goes, "You're starting to freak me out. What is going on? Why are you not letting me inside?" At this point, the fake wife outside realizes she's actually speaking to the real wife inside. The husband and wife at this point are just like, "Answer the question, answer the damn question." And after another long pause, she answers the question, and correctly. The wife inside is absolutely terrified because only she is supposed to know about this. So she grabs her husband's hand and they run upstairs to go back to their bedroom, and they lock themselves in the bedroom. They pull out the Ring doorbell app and they watch this woman outside that looks just like the wife walk off in the backyard, and they presume she's off to find the spare key. They are truly convinced at this point, if this woman knows all these personal questions about them, she will know where the spare key is. That's the story. It is terrifying, and it's so terrifying because I have a feeling that this was a jinn pretending to be the wife, but this jinn must have been watching them and must have been hanging around them for a long time, which is just terrifying to think. It is so scary. But let me know what you think about this story. Let me know what you think happened. If you think it must have been just a stranger that was pretending to be the wife trying to get in, or if you think it was some sort of paranormal activity.
Let me give y'all a story time about a time that I encountered what I believe to not be a real person. And when I say not a real person, I believe that this person was not amongst the land of the living. Or I don't know. I don't think that she was a real person. So I think that she was an entity, or there was an entity inside of her. And so let me explain myself. If you don't believe in a supernatural realm or a realm outside of what you're living in now, then this video might be hard for you to grasp. So maybe about April. It was April. I had been going through a lot. I had been really sick, in and out of the hospital, just battling a lot. And I felt like I was like under spiritual attack, because every time I went to the hospital, they were having trouble finding things. You know, it was just like a lot of back and forth. And it was just like, the attack was so great. I felt like it was just not of this realm. Like, you ever go through something so crazy, so traumatic, that you're like, God, this don't even make no sense. The stuff that's happening don't even make sense. Like, that's where I was at that point in my life. So this one particular night, I had been having some issues. I had been out of the hospital, but I was feeling better. But my mom came down to stay with me. She came down from out of town to be with me. So I was coming from work, and I worked out of town. So I was like maybe 3 hours away, and I was finishing up a contract. So this particular night, I was on my way home, and I called my mom. I was like, hey, do you need anything from the store before I get home? Because I got to pass the store anyway. Now, this store by my house, at that point, I had never been inside of the physical store, but I would always get gas at the pumps, like, because they have tap to pay. So I never had to physically go in. But this night, my mom was like, no, it's fine. And then she was like, well, you know what? You can stop and get me such and such. So I pulled up to the store. When I pulled up, I immediately noticed that it had to be about almost 10 o'clock at night. There was not a lot of people in the store. There was the clerk. There was one person at the counter playing lottery. And there was myself. And then there was a young lady in the store. Now, I went up to in my mind, I was like, well, let me scan the store and see if there's anything that I would like. Like, if I see a snack, I'm going to get it. So I just did a quick little 1-2 throughout the store. I didn't see anything. I was already tired from driving. So I turned around from the cooler to get ready to make my way toward the checkout counter. And in the aisle behind me, maybe about 5 feet away from me, there was a Caucasian girl. And when I turned around to her, she was facing me. She had nothing in her hands. She didn't appear to be shopping. I can't even put an age on her, guys. You know how normally you can guess about a person's age, or maybe generalize them and say she was a young girl, she was an older lady, she was middle age. I couldn't put age on her at all. When I turned around to her, when I turned around to look at her, she might have been about my height. She had shoulder length, strawberry blonde hair. Like, it was like it wasn't strawberry blonde. It was the reddish brown looking hair. It was about right here. And her face was ghostly pale. And I'm not one to judge off appearance, because I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for a long time. So I know that there are illnesses that can affect a person's appearance. This was not like that, y'all. This was nothing like I had seen before. She was the color of this binder. Her face was the color of this binder, but not in a skin texture way. Her face had a kind of almost textured look, like a flaky, floury, ill look. But that wasn't it. That wasn't what did it. When I turned around, she said, we locked eyes. Okay, when I turned around, we locked eyes because she started speaking to me. Her head was positioned in a very unnatural way. She was like, you're so pretty. And when we locked eyes, my heart dropped. I had a feeling of dread, of fear that consumed me. And she was giving me a compliment, but everything about her gave unnatural. Everything about her gave unreal. Her head that was tilted to the side like this, the way it cocked this way when she spoke to me, her face was pale. It looked like she was sick. Her lips were like a strawberry, like a cherry red. Her eyes were like a greenish brown.
but it was everything about her body movements, everything about her tone, everything about the way she looked at me that scared me. My heart dropped, y'all. And I'm gonna tell you exactly who she looked like. I don't know if you guys remember the movie The Exorcist, the original one. She looked exactly like the little girl that was sick in that movie. And I don't watch scary movies. I don't bring scary movies into my house. This is a movie that I saw as a child that I probably watched with my cousins growing up. That's how I was able to identify. And so I said, thank you. And I made my way to the counter. When I went to the counter, she didn't continue. I don't even know what she did behind me. I made my way to the counter and I checked out. I got in my car and I was so scared, y'all. I turned around and checked my back seat. I looked in the back seat. This is how scared I was. And as I'm backing out of the parking lot, you know, the convenience stores, they have glass panes. So I'm driving really slow, looking like to see, is she checking out? And I saw her sweatshirt briefly in the store, but I didn't see it anymore. Like, and then I looked at the cars, like, I'm trying to make sense of this. I'm looking at the cars, like, what kind of car could this young old lady be driving? Like, because she wasn't old enough to where she was just hanging out in the convenience store. She wasn't hanging out. There was nobody. It's not a convenience store where people loiter. She wasn't young enough to just be in there just doing nothing. She would have had a purpose. But I never saw her anymore. Like, I saw her sweatshirt, but then it's like she turned around from the counter again. But y'all, when my husband called me, I said, can I tell you something? He said, what? I said, I think I just saw a spirit. I said, everything in me feels like she was not real. I said, in the energy shift that I felt when I locked eyes with her, I'm terrified. I was scared driving home. When I got to my house, I told my mom about it, and my mom immediately said, she said, Neek, she said, that wasn't a person. She said, that was a spirit. She said, and if she was a real person, God allowed you to see the spirit that was operating in her, or a demonic entity that was in her. Pause, y'all. I told y'all that I had been battling a sickness that month. So that morning on my way to work, I was listening to my prayer, my worship. I was listening to a sermon. And at the end of it, I was praying and I was asking God to reveal to me what was going on around me. And I said this prayer, like, reveal to me the spirits inside of people, like allow them to expose themselves, you know, just because I just wanted clarity about the people that I was around and that was in my space, because I was just going through so much. Fast forward to this encounter, I had forgotten that I even prayed that prayer until my mom brought it back to me. She was like, and if it was a person, God maybe just allowed you to see the demonic entity that was operating on that person. Y'all, I don't know if y'all believe me or not. I don't know if y'all have ever experienced this or felt this way or not. Listen, everything in me tells me that I didn't encounter a real person, that she was not a real person. That was a spirit, that was an entity, that was something that God had allowed me to see with my spiritual eyes. The fear that I felt, the dread that I felt when I locked eyes with her, I looked at her, my heart dropped. I immediately felt panicked. I felt scared. I felt like, this ain't right. She ain't right. Her body movements was very unnatural. Her head was like this. She said, you're so pretty. And her head popped up like this. Her voice, she didn't look young enough to possess a voice that sounded so childlike. You're so pretty. That's how she spoke. I definitely believe that everybody walking the street with us is not amongst us. Let me know if y'all have ever experienced anything like that. But that's just my story.
Story time about the thing that lives in my woods. When we moved here 8 years ago, we had like a teeny tiny front yard and it was just the house. Everything else was woods. We live on 6.5 acres, which is not a huge property, but it is completely surrounded by woods. Here's a picture of what our property looks like. A little while after we moved here, I told my husband, I just feel really dark. I feel really heavy. I've always been kind of in tune with the other side. I never really wanted to accept it or leaned into it or anything, but I just felt it. I told him, like, I need to see the sky. I need to see some sun. We need to do something. He went through, of course, and started clearing woods for me. We built a horse barn, had pastures, brought my horses in, and I'm out one morning early. It was like just before dawn. I'm in the feed room. I'm on my phone, not really paying attention. I hear somebody call my name, which if you saw the other picture, not possible. My husband was at work, kids were sleeping, nobody was around. But I answered because I wasn't really paying attention or thinking about that. It's dead silent. And I realized, like, wait a minute, like, there's nobody around that would be calling me. What was that? That was the first time that really made me realize that I can't deny, like, there's something present, right? Then I started just kind of paying attention. Noticed that when I would be walking back from the barn, which I had always felt really heavy, like something was following me, watching me, whatever, when I was walking back from the barn, like something was behind me.
started noticing that all of my animals, I have 2 black barn cats and then my dog, right where I would really feel this presence, they were cutting between me and this area. They would be walking on my right side, this spot is on the left side, and they would like damn near run into me to cut over and be in between me and the space. And it's every time, like without fail, they will like run into my legs. This winter, I'm out feeding my pigs one night. It was starting to get dark, it was almost dusk, and I hear a goat crying in the woods. I knew all of my goats were up. I knew that there wasn't a goat in the woods, and it was like calling to me. I didn't pay it any mind. There is a big plantation. There's a big farm down the road that has people. It's like a state park now. We were there one day and I heard the same goat in the woods while we were walking to the beach. This is attached to the same woods that this property is. Another time, I was out watching my goats. They were in labor, and I heard my dog, who was in the house. My dog, I've had for 10 years, my best friend, I heard him in the woods. So much so I went in and asked my husband, like, is Boomer outside? He's literally laying on the couch. Then this winter again, I'm out feeding my cows one morning, and our UPS man had just dropped off a package, and he was driving out, and I waved to him, and he stopped, and he's like, have you ever seen anything out here? I said, no, but I feel things. He said, the other night I'm dropping stuff off. It was like 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. This is during Christmas, so they were doing like late runs. And he's like, I saw a woman, like an old-timey woman in like an apron and a bonnet, walking across your driveway. Like she was all white, I don't think she was real, but I just was wondering like if you have seen anything too. He's like, yeah, it feels a little eerie coming out here at night. I said, yeah, I agree. Not by the house, but in the woods. My dog did go missing for like 5 hours after he had his eyes removed. His name is Boomer. He doesn't have any eyes. I stupidly went out into the woods and I told it, I need my dog back. Like, you have to give me my dog back. And in 30 minutes, my dog was found. So do with that what you will. I don't know what's here. If you have any discourse or discussion in the comments, please be respectful of other cultures. I don't know what it is, but I know what it's not. We are in Virginia, so I'm sure it's not what you're thinking it is. Whatever it is mimics animals to try and lure my animal-loving self out into the woods. I don't know what this thing is. I am only talking about it because it's daytime. We'll not talk about this at night. I haven't even told many people. I've told my husband. Whatever it is, if you have any ideas of how to get rid of it, please let me know. Since we brought in the animals, everything has been a whole lot lighter, so I think that it has been pushed back away from the house. We have eagles and hawks that live here on the property, and I think that they help too. We also have owls, and they all nest here and hopefully keep us safe, or maybe they're doing us harm. I don't know, but that's my story time of whatever it is that lives in our woods, and if you have any ideas, please let me know. Bye!
Story that I'm gonna tell you, honestly, it like creeps the fuck out of me still when I think about it. So growing up, I didn't really grow up with my grandparents. We would go visit them like when we went to Mexico and stuff and on vacation. And I remember like really spending a lot of time with my mom's mom, but with my dad's mom, we hardly like ever spent time. And I remember my mom always being so cautious, like, be careful what you eat when you go to your grandma's house. Don't get everything. But for some reason, my grandma had like a really, really like strong connection with me, I guess. I remember her always telling me like, oh, you look so much like your dad. But she would always kind of single my little sister out, like, oh, but your sister looks like your mom so much. And I remember she would like grab my face and be like, oh, you're so beautiful. You look just like my son. And so, me and my sister would joke around about it, like, oh, you're the favorite one. But I never really took it like, it was like, whatever. So I used to work in a warehouse when my oldest daughter she was like a year and a half. And I had found out that just recently, like, I remember when I was working, I found out that then I was pregnant with my son. So I remember working a graveyard shift, and I remember not telling anybody because I work with mostly guys. And I'm like, they don't need to know about my business or whatever. And I must have been like a month pregnant. So I remember getting off of work, and I felt so uneasy, like I had a feeling, I don't know, like something bad was going to happen. And I remember I couldn't sleep. But before I even went to go lay down, I remember like looking at the end of the hallway. Like I get there, right? And I'm going to go to my room. But the hallway was so dark. And I remember like I was about to turn on the light, and I stayed looking at the end of the hallway, and I remember seeing this really dark, like a human figure, right? And I got so like tripped the fuck out. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I turned on the light, and there's nothing there. So then I try to go to sleep or whatever, and mind you, I must have slept for like 2 hours. And then I had this sudden urge to like call my mom. So I remember I called my mom and I was like, hey mom, what are you doing? And she's like, I'm so glad you called. I'm like, what happened? And she's like, your grandma just passed away. And I remember I was like, what the fuck? And I told my mom what had happened, you know, how I had seen that figure at the end of the hallway. And my mom jokingly was like, oh, she probably want to say goodbye to you. You know, she probably, you know, dio su despedida, like said her goodbyes. And it kind of stuck with me, right? So mind you, remember I work graveyard at this warehouse. And so I remember walking into HR office. And I wish I could see this girl. I mean, I wish I could reach out to her, or she could reach out to me if she ever were to see my videos. I remember walking into the HR and she's like, hey, like try to approach me. She's like, can I tell you something? But I don't want you to feel uncomfortable what I'm going to tell you. And I'm thinking in my head, what the fuck is she going to tell me? You know? And I remember she's like, oh, it like terrifies me when I think about it, because everything that happened after was so fucking scary. I remember her like telling me, you know, it's gonna sound awkward, blah blah. Cut the story short, she's like, somebody walked in with you. And I'm like, the fuck? I walked in by myself, you know? She's like, no, there's this. It was an older lady that just passed away. And I remember looking at her like, what the fuck are you talking about? And she's like, starts describing my grandma to me. When she told me this, I felt like my heart dropped, you know? I'm like, how the fuck does she know? And so she tells me that, and then she's like, but she can't rest. Like, she needs to tell you something. And I'm like, tell me what? Like, you can't tell me? You know? And she's like, no, like, your grandma needs to tell you. And I remember I was like, no, like, I don't want her to come to me. Like, how is she gonna come to me in a dream? Like, I was starting to trip. Because, mind you, when my grandma passed away, the way I remember her, like, no, I was so terrified, honestly, when she passed away. Like, I didn't want her to come back to me like that. She was very old already when she passed away, but her skin was so fragile. Like, if you picked her up, like, literally her skin would rip wherever she was, like, picked up from. So she's like, she's gonna come to you, blah blah. And I'm like telling her, like, no, like pleading, like, no, I don't want her to come to me. Like, I sound like a crazy person. And so she's like, but she's not coming to you right now, you know? And she's like, when you have your son. When she told me that, I was already tripping, you know? This just like threw me overboard, right? And so she's like, yeah, when you have your son. I hadn't told anybody I was pregnant, let alone I didn't even know what I was having. So I remember every night like praying to God, like, please don't let her come to me, please, I'm terrified of her, like, I don't want her to come, God. Like, I would pray for her every night. Like, I was literally terrified of her. And the day comes where I have my son, right? So I'm continuing to pray every night for her, like lighting candles for her, and I'm like, please don't come, please don't ever come. I don't care what you did. Like, I don't want to know what you have to tell me. Like, why are you choosing me? Like, choose somebody else. Like, and I remember telling the same girl that told me that, and I'm like, can she choose somebody else? Like, and she's like, no, because she knows you're strong and you're gonna be able to handle what she's gonna tell you. And that stuck in my head, and I remember just like losing it, to be honest. And I don't know, I felt like so uncomfortable my whole pregnancy because I just was waiting for her to arrive. So I ended up having my son, and at that time my daughter had her own room, but she would sleep in a little toddler bed in my room. So the toddler bed was right next to my bed, and I remember like breastfeeding my son. Tell me why. This is when I think about it, it's so terrifying, to be honest. Like, I really hope she doesn't ever come back, because my daughter's sitting in her toddler bed and she kind of like sits up and she's like not fully awake, right? So she's sitting up and her eyes, they're like not open, but she's like, I don't know if she's trying to open them or rolling back, but I'm tripping the fuck out. I see her sit up, and then she's like, Kukui, kukui. Bitch. Kukui? You know, I'm like, kukui, and I'm like calling her name, like, wake up, wake up. But let me give you a little background. When my daughter, when I was changing my daughter's diaper, right, we had a picture of my grandma in a spare room at my mom's house. And I remember how she like looked up at the picture and she was like, kukui, kukui, pointing at my grandma's picture, and I'm like, cucuy, like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, cucuy is like something scary, right, in Spanish. And I'm like, mom, telling him, like, my mom, come here, look what she's saying. And mom's like, what the fuck, like, why would she say that? So when my daughter sat up in the bed and she was saying that, in my heart, I knew it was my grandma. And I was like, I can't do anything for you, you know, like, I'm not the person. But it made me so angry to think that she was, like, going after my daughter. So I, like, start cussing a storm, you know, and, like, get the fuck out of my fucking room, blah, blah. Like, my mom has always told me, like, if you see something, a spirit, like, you're supposed to curse it, right? Curse at it, and supposedly it leaves. I don't know if it's true, but it worked. Like, when I said that, like, I remember as I was saying it, I could see my daughter's eyes, like, her whole, like, her eyes, her head, everything started turning, like, to the side. Oh my god, it's so fucking scary when I think about it. It started, like, turning and turning, like, as if it's like watching this thing walk out of the room. I literally fucking died in that second. And I'm like, I start tripping the fuck out, you know? And I'm like, you know, calling my daughter's name. I'm like, wake up, you know, wake up. Mind you, she's like 2 now. And I'm like literally so pissed off. And, like, I start crying, and I'm, like, holding my daughter, and I'm, like, holding my son, you know? And I'm like, why would you come? I was more pissed off at that. I'm like, why would you come and scare my daughter? Or, like, I felt like she was being selfish, even though it was, like, her afterlife. Because after my grandma passed, like, a lot of things surfaced about things that she did, like, while she was alive. Like, that she was to, like, black magic, and she did a lot of things to people that she shouldn't have done, you know, my mom being one of them. So, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking, like, dude, she fucking did something really bad, and she wants me to go, you know, take care of it for her. Like, no. After that, I had one more encounter happen, but when that happened, I would start dreaming of her, but I never would see her face, you know? Like, my dreams were always, I knew it was her, because that same scary feeling that I got when I felt that thing come into that room that night, I would wake up literally screaming, terrified from these nightmares I would have of her. Yeah, they're not even dreams, they're nightmares. Where she would just be sitting in this black room. Not black, she would be all black. This dark room. And she would kind of cackle, like laughing at me. And when I would wake up, I would be so fucking terrified. You know, I'm like, I know, I'm sorry, I know it was my grandma, but whatever she did, I know it must have been something really bad. But I like ask God for her to never come to me. Like, I prayed so much, I pray for her soul. But it's just when I have those dreams of her, and I haven't, like, honestly, I would have them so, like, one after another. But now it's been like, it's been like a year that I haven't dreamed of her. And, like, honestly, before I go to sleep, I always, like, try to pray and, like, pray that nothing ever comes, you know? Or nothing ever, I think it's a cricket, or nothing ever, like, or she just doesn't ever come back or try to haunt us, to be honest. Because I have a feeling that whatever she needed to tell me was something really bad. And I know that girl told me that I would be able to withstand what she was going to tell me. But something tells me it was just terrifying. Like I said, I would love to find that girl, you know, that used to work in HR. And just, like, I have so many questions for her. But yeah, that was one of my experiences with a ghost. I mean, I've had plenty of experiences, but this one is one that literally traumatized me. And within the years, as my daughter got older, like, I learned that she too would see things, you know, or she would feel things. Like, when I dream of her, when I dream of my grandma, or when I dream of her, my daughter dreams of her. And my daughter's so terrified, and, you know, my daughter will wake up and she'll be like, Mom, like, she's so scary, like, the way she comes in my dream. But I think I get afraid sometimes, thinking, like, if she didn't get through to me, will she try to get through to my daughter?
When I was young, my parents bought 130 acres to build a house. And then my mom decided that she wanted to decorate that house with antique furniture. And that's where we messed up. We didn't live there long. We started seeing some like shadow figure outside the front door. And my family didn't really believe in ghosts, so none of us really said anything about it until probably like a year later. One of us in the family was like, okay, does anybody else see this outside? Like, I keep seeing it past the window. Everybody in the family was like, oh my gosh, yes, I see it, but I thought it was crazy. The lady that owned the land before us, her name was Lucille. So of course my dad named her Lucille, and we all just refer to her as Lucille now. But we were all like, you know what? She seems nice. She minds her own business. She stays outside. No big deal. Just leave her alone. Until I got pregnant. I was 17, so I still lived with my parents, and she decided to welcome herself inside. She would stay very close to me. She was always at every corner I was. I would take a shower, and I could see her out of the corner of my eye, standing in the doorway, watching me every time I showered, the whole time I was pregnant. No big deal, whatever. Watching after me, being nice. And then I gave birth. Still, no big deal. She was next to me in the baby. I thought maybe she was just a sweet ghost. And then one day, I laid my baby down, I sat the camera up, and I went and took a shower, and I was watching the camera while I took a shower, and I saw her laying in the crib next to him. So I ran out the bathroom, and I was like, look, girl, too much, too far, you need to go. You gotta leave. And she listened. She was very sweet. She listened. She moved upstairs to a spare room and didn't bother anybody else, but she would stand in the window and just watch everybody. Literally everybody knows about her. Delivery people, lawn care people, like literally everybody knows about Lucille. Then we ended up moving, and I never saw her again until now. So let me know if you want part 2 to find out how she lives with me again. I was told that I talked too fast and it made me self-conscious, and I deleted my video, so I'm gonna try this again. So my parents sold that house, and the people that bought it decided to remodel, and they offered the carpet from Lucille's room to my sister. And when she took it, I guess that Lucille hitched a ride on it. So she lived with my sister for a while, and then I guess when my sister gave me some of her hand-me-downs, she decided to hitch a ride over here on those. Maybe she just walked. I don't really know how ghosts work. She does not have a face or any features. The best way to describe her is just a shadow figure. For some reason, it's understood that she's a woman, though. I don't know why. Like, we all know that it's a lady. She's never given us any problems, and she feels really nice, so we just let her stay. And she stays outside now. She lives in my front yard. But I don't have any pictures or videos of her because I don't expect to see her. I just see her outside my window. And honestly, we've seen her so much. She's been around for almost a decade, so we just don't, it doesn't surprise us anymore. Also, sorry to everybody that had a sleepover at my house in high school. I couldn't warn y'all that I had a ghost because I would have sounded insane.
I think I saw La Muerte when I was in Mexico Storytime. So this happened around, I think I was around 12 or 13 years old. I don't really remember. But during that time, I went to go visit my family in Mexico during summer. And I remember me and my family were in the kitchen in a gathering with all my cousins, all my younger cousins, and my aunts and my uncles. The only people that they were not there was my aunt and my uncle. My uncle and my aunt were not there because my uncle was quitándose el espanto. Te curen, so que te quitan el espanto. So they told us to not be around there, and our houses are right next to each other. We're my uncle's house, so my grandma's house is right here, and my uncle's house is like right in front of it. So like if you go outside, the house is right there. But they told us to stay inside the kitchen of my grandma's house. So all of us were in there. We were just talking, and then my cousin told me, "Hey, can you go bring me some water?" And the water is outside. It wasn't inside. By a tree. There's this tree that they cut off right outside the kitchen, and the tree, the only thing that was left from the tree was the tree trunk. So on the tree trunk there was like this jug on top of the tree trunk where you could press a button and it would fill up the water for you, or you could just open the jug and just fill it up in that way. So there was 2 ways that you could get water from it. I went outside to go get water from my cousin, and as I was about to press the button to fill up the cup of water, because it wasn't a small cup, it was a pretty big cup that he gave me, and that's when I decided to look up, and where the kitchen is at, it's like in a hill kind of, and in the bottom there's like a bottom of rocks of a hill, and there's like another house down there, and that house is where they had some animals in there. It used to be a kitchen, but now they used it as like kind of like a barn to keep animals in there. So as when I looked in that direction, I saw La Muerte, what I believe I saw. It was just kind of facing towards me. It had his like the stick that he usually holds, and like a blade, kind of something covering him up top of it. It's like kind of like a hood on top with the black all the way down, and he kind of looked kind of elevated, kind of. I really wasn't paying attention to it, and I just ignored it. I just looked down and just kept doing what I was doing. What I should have done, I should have just opened a truck and just scoop it in and just left. But for some reason, I was kind of like in a trance that I wanted to just, you know, keep pressing the button. And for some reason, I wanted to look at it again because I was like, did I just actually see that? And then I saw it again, and I looked up, and as the second time I saw it, it was turning around, and I was already turned around heading to the bushes back in front of the old kitchen on the bottom where they keep the animals. It's completely forest, and that's part of the area. So that's where I saw him disappear. Like, I saw his back just like disappearing through the forest and like disappeared through the bushes. And I finished filling up the cup, and I went back inside, and I didn't tell anyone until later on. And I told my cousin and my aunts, like, oh, I think I saw this. And then they told me, are you scared? And I was like, no, I didn't get scared. I just didn't pay attention to it. I just like filled up the water, and like, I don't know if I actually saw it, but I was kind of like in a shock, I guess I can say. That I wasn't scared, but I was just in shock that I couldn't believe that what I saw. And then I went inside, and yeah, I just came inside like normally. I wasn't scared or anything. And I told my cousins, I told my aunt and my aunts, if you were scared? I said, no, I'm not scared or anything. Because they told me, if you're scared, we could tell those like get to get down in Espanto since they're here right now. And I said, no, I'm fine, like I'm not scared or anything. And after that, nothing else happened. But that's the time that I encountered, and I think I saw La Muerte. But yeah.
Tell me, what's the creepiest experience you ever had in your life, and why you still think about that moment?
One of the scariest things that ever happened to me happened while I was in college at UC Davis. I was working at Abercrombie & Fitch at Arden Fair Mall at the time when I was in college, and I was actually at the mall for a completely different reason other than work one day. My laptop had kind of shit its pants, and I went to go take it in, whatever. As I was leaving, this man approached me. And as females, we're kind of used to having men approach us. It's not that big of a deal. You just say, don't bother me, and they're usually on their way. But there was something about this man's presence that had me frozen in fear. I had never, and still to this day, have never experienced anything like that before. I can't remember exactly what he said. It was nothing threatening, nothing super intimidating. I think he was just like, oh, what's your name? Like, why are you here? Something like that. But for some reason, something had just a pit in my stomach just being in this man's presence, and I gunned it into the nearest store by the exit, and I called my dad immediately, and I said, there's a man that has approached me. There's something about him that's not right. I just need you to be on the phone with me until I can get to my car. I get into my car, lock the door, get home, forget all about it. Then 2 weeks later, I am working a shift at Abercrombie on a completely different day, completely different time. This time it's a closing time, and I am leaving the store ready to go home. There's really no one in the mall, and I'm leaving the store, and in the distance I see a man sitting on a bench. When I get close enough to realize who it is, it's too late. He's already making eye contact with me, and it's the same man that gave me that horrible pit in my stomach a few weeks prior. This scared me so badly for a few reasons. One, there was no one there. There was no one in this mall, really, besides like the few employees that were probably still closing up their stores, but there was like literally no one in this mall. It was empty. There's no reason why he should have been sitting there. And it just seemed like he was sitting there waiting for me. And that scared me because how did he know where I worked? How did he know I was going to be there at that time? And why is he sitting here waiting for me? What are his intentions? After this, things get even scarier than I could have imagined. But unfortunately, I'm going to have to do a part 2 and explain that. Part 2 of one of the scariest things that's ever happened to me. So where we left off was I was leaving my shift at work when I saw this man that I had seen a few weeks prior, and he looked like he was waiting for me. I gunned it for the other side of the mall through like a walkway, and went down the escalator, and I was trying to go as fast as I could. However, I was quick to realize that this man was following me. And what was even scarier to me was he wasn't trying to get my attention. He was super calm, and he was just following me, and he looked mad. I always parked at this restaurant at the mall because it stayed open later than any of the stores, and I knew there was going to be a lot of late night foot traffic there. So I would park there so that way, if anything ever happened, if I ever needed something, I could easily go in and ask for help. But in this instance, I just went directly inside the restaurant and I waited and I called my dad. I call my dad, I tell him the situation, and now he's telling me to calm down, everything's gonna be okay. He tells me what to do, and his instructions are simply wait in this BJ's for as long as you can, find a group that's going out together and go out with them. When you can go out with them, make sure to stay kind of close to them in the group so it just looks like you're following along, and then beeline it to your car as fast as you can. So that's exactly what I do, and I make it to my car, lock the doors, and I think I'm all in the clear. I tell my dad, okay, I'm here, everything's good, I'm just going to go home now, thank you. As I'm pulling out of my parking spot and trying to get out of the parking lot, a car approaches my car on the side of it. Someone rolls down their window, and it is this man and another man. The other man I had never seen before, but that same man that had followed me rolled down his window and is now yelling at me, demanding that I roll down my window and demanding that I pull over. And at this moment, my fight or flight kicked in, and thankfully, I chose flight, and also thankfully, I was raised in Southern California, so if there's anything we can do, it's zoom zoom. I called back my dad, though, and I was frantic. I was really, really scared. I did not know what was happening, because now, as I was pulling out and skirting out of this parking lot, this man was following me. He was super close to my car and trying to get as close to it as possible. When I call my dad, he asked me, is there a way that you can kind of get away from him somehow? And the freeway that I needed to take to go home, it actually splits two ways. It goes east and west or something like that, and I had to go east. So I told my dad, I was like, you know what I'm going to do at the last second, like when I need to go east, I'm just going to go super fast into that lane and hope I'm okay and hope he doesn't follow behind me. Meanwhile, this guy is flashing his brights in my rear and getting super close to my car and honking at me. Thankfully, I was able to pull into the other lane just in time for him to not have time to be able to follow me, and I went home, and I never saw him again, thankfully. But to this day, I just know his intentions were not good.
So I just went through my Instagram DMs reading more horror stories from you guys, and I stumbled across a follower named Kayla that told me her cat was a skinwalker in disguise. Kayla told me this happened literally a few days ago, and she's still traumatized by it. All she wants is her cat back, but let's get into this story. Kayla told me last week when she came home from school, she noticed something was off. Her cat Butterscotch never greeted her at the door. Kayla said this was unusual, being that her cat always does that, and if she doesn't, that usually means she's sick, but she was fine that morning. Kayla told me she walked around her house calling for Butterscotch, crawling through tight spaces with her flashlight, but still nothing. She called her parents, but they both said before they left for work, Butterscotch was fast asleep in her kitty bed. Kayla started to freak out because where did her cat go? After looking and looking, Kayla noticed the window in her downstairs bathroom was left wide open enough for her cat to slip through. She immediately started to freak out even more because 1, her cat definitely jumped out the window. 2, she's a small cat, so what if a hawk or something got her? And 3, what if she got ran over or taken? Kayla said every bad thought was running through her head. Kayla said she called her parents back to tell them the news sobbing. Kayla told me over the next few days she was depressed. She pinned pictures of her cat outside, asked her neighbors to be on the lookout, and stayed up all night waiting for someone to call the number on the pinned papers saying that they found Butterscotch and that she's safe and sound. Every minute, hour, and day that went by, nothing. It came to a point where Kayla and her family accepted the fact that Butterscotch was gone forever, and those bad thoughts about what could have happened to her came true. Until one night, something strange happened. Kayla told me while she was getting ready for bed and changing in her room, she heard a faint meow. Her heart dropped, but she pushed that feeling aside because she thought this was just her hearing things. She just thought there's no way her cat could have came back and continued to put on her nightshirt and night pants until she heard another meow, this time more louder and clear. She told me she froze and said Butterscotch, and another meow was heard. Kayla said she opened the door of her room and started walking when she tripped over something below her. It was her cat Butterscotch. She told me she looked down and it was a waterfall of tears. Kayla said she picked up her cat and ran downstairs to tell her parents that she's back. Excited to tell her parents, when she arrived in the kitchen holding Butterscotch, her parents seemed rather confused than happy. Kayla said her tears stopped and she looked at her parents confused as well. She told me her mom asked her where did the cat come from. Her dad also said the doors and windows have been closed ever since they got home. Kayla told me she shut down her parents' concern by telling them that they should be happy that Butterscotch is back and to not question it like it's a bad thing. Kayla said she immediately left the kitchen and walked up to her room trying to forget about how her parents ruined their reunion moment. But for some reason in the back of her head, she kept thinking about what her parents said. How did her cat magically appear inside? Not only that, but her cat seemed to be totally fine. There was no sign of her being dirty from being outside or sign of starvation. It just seemed like her cat never left. Kayla said she put her cat on her bed and she began cuddling with her because at the end of the day, she was just happy that her cat was back. Fast forward, Kayla said it was around 1 a.m. when she finally decided to go to sleep. She shut her light off on the nightstand next to her and watched as her cat made herself comfortable by lying at the edge of the bed next to her feet. Kayla said about 2 hours into her sleep, things got really weird. Like, really weird. She said she was awoken by the feeling of her bed shaking. With her eyes not fully open, she could see the shadow of her cat waking up and jumping off the bed. She told me she yelled out, "Butterscotch, go to bed." And then Kayla positioned herself to be more comfortable on the bed. Kayla said about 3 seconds later, she heard the door creaking open. Now keep in mind, her cat is small, so there's no way she could reach the handle, and plus, her whole family was asleep. Also, what business would they have opening her door at 3 a.m.? Kayla said when she heard the door creaking, her eyes opened wide, and she slowly turned her body around. In the process of doing that, she said she felt a strong vibration overpower her. When her body was facing forward, she lifted her head up just a little bit to see an average-sized shadow at the corner of her room near her door. Kayla remembers saying her cat's name only for the shadow to move out of the corner and stand in clear view of Kayla. Kayla said she froze with fear looking at this figure and watched as this figure turned its head towards her. She described its face as human-like, but it had an abnormally large mouth and pointy ears. It didn't seem to have eyes, and it was almost as if you were looking through a never-ending tunnel. The body was torn and twisted, and Kayla told me that when the figure noticed that she was looking at it, it hurried back into the corner. What she saw and heard next shocked her. Kayla said when she fully sat up to watch what was going on, she watched as this figure broke its body down, got on all fours, and disappeared into the dark corner of her door. In the process, she heard crunching sounds like bones were breaking from this figure. She told me as she was trembling with fear, she slowly moved her hand towards the nightstand to turn on the light. As her hand crept towards the switch of the light, she heard a meow coming from the corner, but it wasn't a normal meow. It sounded distressed and almost like a failed attempt of someone trying to mimic what a cat sounds like. Kayla said she closed her eyes and hit the light switch. She told me she heard her door open and quick tapping on her floor all the way down to the end of her hallway, and then it was quiet. When she finally opened her eyes, all she saw was an open door, no sign of the figure, and no sign of her cat. Fast forward, after staying up all night with her door closed and light on, when morning came, she decided to research what she saw to find out if anyone had similar experiences to her. This made her come to the realization that her cat Butterscotch that supposedly came back actually didn't, and it was instead a skinwalker. She told me ever since that night, she's surprised she didn't get attacked, and she still hasn't found the real Butterscotch. She told me all she wants is her cat to find her way back home.
Okay, I just got into the algorithm of people sharing their kind of spooky, scary stories while hiking, or a lot of Appalachia stories. This is not Appalachia, but about 3 years ago near Idaho Springs, in, I want to say, February, March, maybe April. I'm somewhere in that time frame where there's still snow. My friend and I drove up to Hell's Hole Trail, and we couldn't get far because there was so much snow. We're in a Jeep. We park on the side. We're going to snowshoe up and snowshoe as much of the trail as we could. And as we start to go up with 4 dogs, big dogs, we're walking up the trail, and there is a pickup truck sideways blocking the road. And there's a man there clearly stuck in the snow. And we're like, okay, that happens. He's not afraid of the dogs, and the dogs are taught to ignore people unless otherwise told. So the dogs kind of all surround him. We're like, everything okay? And he is wearing what looked to be fishing waders around him, and then a bright yellow shirt. Pickup truck plates, I want to say, were, I'm gonna forget, but the plates did not match the place he told us he was from. It was a different state, and it was not Colorado. And we're on the trail, and he's like, yeah, my car's stuck. And we're like, I mean, we can try to help push it if you want. And there's a kind of a cliff edge and trees on one side, and the rest is just gravel. and covered in snow. So we tried to push it, my friend and I. Didn't get it very far. So my friend's like, well, why don't I get in the front seat and I'll try to give it some gas and you and my friend push. So she gets in the front seat, starts the car, we're pushing, makes a little ways, stuck again. And we're like, you know what, sorry, like, we obviously can't help you. And he was like, oh, it's okay, I've been camping up there the last few days. My friend's still up there. My friend Connor's still up there, and I was supposed to meet him. And we don't see any other cars. And also, you don't really camp at that time of the year when there's that much snow. I mean, you could, but it was odd. His trunk was filled with a bunch of stuff. He told us he had just gone to a storage unit, like, auction, and he didn't get much. We're like, okay. So he had told us that he tried to chop down a tree branch to use as, like, a lever system to get the truck out of the snow. And then as we're leaving, my friend was like, the axe was on the front seat, and I instinctively threw it in the back. And she saw, like, little bags of, like, what looked to be, like, women's jewelry, which would kind of match the storage unit situation, but not fully. And she saw a woman's bag and sunglasses or something, and he was by himself. Oh, I'm getting the chills. And so we walk away, and he gets out. The car gets out all of a sudden, and we were just like, something's off. Like, the hair on the back of our neck stood up. We're not that far from the car, so I'm like, I don't think we should go here. Like, he can drive now. So we book it back to the car, and he pulls over and stops us, and he's like, where are you going? I thought you were hiking this. And we were like, actually, too much snow, we're headed out. And he said, where are you going? We're like, don't know yet. Literally run to the car, lock the doors. Oh, he tries to give us these bags of, like, women's jewelry or whatever he had from the storage unit, and was like, here, like, for your help. And I was like, nope, don't want any of that. Get in the car, lock the doors, and he gets in front of us, and he's driving down the road, and we're going for like 5 minutes. We have no service, key part. And we get halfway down the road. He is then kind of blocking the road, and he's outside of his car. And we get close, we don't even make eye contact, and just zoom around him. At one point we were like, fucking hit the car. Like, not that was the best idea, but, like, panicked. So then we're driving, and he drives again, and then we see him pulled over in, like, just like a little pull-out spot on the side of the road before you get to the town of Idaho Springs. Don't know how he got in front of us, because there's not that many roads around there. And the second we get into service, we called the cops, and we were just like, gave the license plate, gave the spot he was parked at, told the situation. I was like, I don't know if he's hiding from something. I don't know if he has a friend up there, or what they did, or why he has all this stuff from the storage unit. But someone go check on this man. And they did. And I mean, we didn't get a, like, update or anything, but always still freaks me out. And this was, I think it was like February to April timeframe, 2022. So if anyone saw the same situation, let me know. It's fucking weird. Spooky story. Oh my god.
If you're laying in bed and you actually want to sleep tonight, then you should skip this. For the rest of us who like scaring the shit out of ourselves, welcome. When I was a kid, my best friend asked a Ouija board how old she was going to be when she died. Okay, spoiler, it told her 22. Probably wondering, did she die at 22? I'm going to tell you a story that only 3 people know. Well, 2, because one of them is dead. This story starts about 20 years ago when Christina and I were about 12. We were inseparable, and we used to hang out with her older sister all the time. We were at their house a lot. It looked like a normal suburban house on the outside, but I swear you walked in and it was like a portal to the underworld. This house scared the absolute shit out of me. I would hear screams coming from the attic, and I would look down this long, dark, creepy hallway, see dark figures like motioning up when I'm trying to sleep at night. To make matters worse, we would sit in her room with the lights dim, pull out the Ouija board, and play all the time. But here's the thing, it only ever worked for Christina. It was like she had some weird connection to it. Naturally, her sister and I always thought this was fake, and she was just doing it for attention. because it would move so fast all over the place, telling us everything. Never worked when we did it alone, so we were a little bit suspicious. Whatever ghost was on the other side of this had diarrhea of the mouth. This was not like you see on the horror movies where it's like, oh, this is slowly moving to yes or no. Like, no, this was like a T9 texting expert ghost that word vomited constantly. So one day we had just finished watching Big Fish, and in that movie there is this creepy old witch, and you can ask her how old you're going to be when you die. Christina loved this idea. Next thing you know, she's pulling out the Ouija board and immediately asking, how old am I going to be when I die? Planchette slowly starts to move towards the numbers, and it hovers over the 2, and then it takes a little bit of a movement back and comes right back to the 2. Christina didn't even skip a beat. She grabs her red notebook that she wrote down all of the answers the Ouija board said in it, wrote down, age I'm gonna die, 22. Completely calm. Little did we know, something was set in motion and some weird shit started happening for the next 10 years. About a year after the Ouija board incident, Christina's middle school boyfriend tragically died. He was babysitting his 3-year-old little sister, hanging a rope swing for her in the backyard. The parents got home, found the little girl screaming in the backyard, looking at her brother hanging by the tree. He accidentally got tangled in the rope and hung himself. He had been dead for about 3 hours. While Christina was upset about this, she wasn't hysterical, more so distant. And she said to me, I think I'm gonna see him again soon. I just don't see myself growing old. I can't be that upset about it because something like that might happen to me. For the sake of being able to sleep at night, I wrote off a lot of these things. Christina and I grew apart over the years. A couple of other creepy things happened here and there, but for the most part, I think she had a pretty normal life. She got a job, got a fiance, seemed pretty happy from what I could tell. So now we're about 21 and Christina's wedding is coming up. I didn't go to the wedding, but I saw this footage later. Christina's standing at the altar, all smiles, having just been married, trying to take photos with her family. Softly in the background, you hear a little girl singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. Christina yells super loudly, Kenna, it's time to take photos. And the camera just slowly pans left. And then you get a great view of this beautiful little flower girl sitting in a pew, holding a Bible upside down, singing the Itsy Bitsy Spider. She shuts the Bible, takes a couple of steps towards the aisle, and slowly walks forward. I shit you not, this 3-year-old looks up at this bride and says, Christina, are you gonna die soon? Freaked out when she heard this, which would be a normal response, but I heard her talk about death so many times as a teenager and just how it didn't faze her that it was a little bit odd to hear her talking about it like this. I really think it's because she was 5 months pregnant. Things had changed for her. About a year after the wedding, Christina was at a cabin with her family in the mountains, having some celebration. Everyone was there, including her newborn son. It seemed like one of those days where nothing could go wrong. Her family always had a 4-wheeler that we would take around the mountains and have a really good time on. At some point in the afternoon, her and a friend decided to take it out for a ride. But that day, something was different. As they rode through the trails, everything seemed all right until Christina screamed, "The brakes aren't working." They flew off of a cliff. Both of them were rushed to the hospital. Christina didn't make it. She died on the way there. 22.
Hey y'all, this haunted story is from a person in Connecticut. All right, let's get into it. So he said when he was 10 years old, him and his family moved down the street from a haunted house. Now, he said everybody in the area, everybody in the neighborhood, they all believed that this house was haunted, except for him and his family, because he lived in an atheist home. He was from an atheist family. So, of course, naturally, they don't believe in the spiritual world. Now, because they don't believe in the spiritual world, he didn't take it seriously at all. So all of his friends, all of their families, like, hey, don't go towards that house. Don't go near that house. Do you hear me? So he said that once he made friends with all the kids on the block and stuff, the kids his age, he said from the age of 10 all the way up to 15, every single year they went into this haunted house on Halloween. Now, he said everything was fine from the age 10 to 15 when they went into this haunted house on Halloween. But when he turned 16 and it was time for them to go into the haunted house, he said he felt different and something did not feel right. He felt sick. So once him and his friends snuck into the haunted house this year when he was 16 years old, he said that everybody just, I guess, dispersed and wanted to just leave. They left early. He went home and he said to his parents, hey, I'm sorry, I'm not feeling good, so I can't take my younger siblings out trick-or-treating. So his family was like, okay, it's cool, just stay here and rest. So while he was at home resting, he was laid down in the bed and he kept hearing someone call his name. And while they were calling his name, he, of course, was wondering, okay, everybody's gone, so who was that calling my name? He followed the sound, went downstairs, and when he went downstairs, he saw someone that looked just like him. He saw himself. So, of course, he's terrified. He runs upstairs. He closes the door. He locks the door. First of all, I would just like to interject. You ran upstairs and you locked the door and somebody was in your house. You need a whooping. Anyway, let's continue. So he said he ran upstairs and he locked the door. And once he locked the door, he said that somebody kept trying to get into the door. But finally, he said he dozed off and he went to sleep. Now, he said the next morning came, and when he went downstairs, his family and everybody was angry at him, and he didn't know why. And so he asked him, like, what's wrong? What did I do? And they told him he lied. He said he was feeling sick, but they saw him out with his friends riding around on his bike. He was like, I was not. I was here all night at home in bed because I was not feeling well. His parents didn't believe him, so of course he's grounded. Of course he's in trouble. So now that his parents don't believe him, they don't trust him to do anything, they don't trust him to go anywhere by himself, he had much more freedom until they saw him out with his friends. Now remember, he was not out. He was at home. So he said that people started to come up to him and say weird things like, why did you do this? Why did you do that? And he was just like, he didn't know what to say to them because everything that people were accusing him of, he did not do. So he said for a few years this went on. And so pretty much the city that he lived in, he just couldn't catch a break and everybody blamed everything on him and were thinking that this bad person that's going around looking like him was him. So he said one day he woke up and his parents' car was gone. And so the parents, of course, called 911 and they're asking the neighbors like, hey, did you see anything last night or X, Y, and Z? And so his neighbors were like, well, yeah, we saw your son driving off in your car. So, of course, the parents are furious. What did you do with our car? So fast forward to he is a grown adult now and his parents don't believe anything he ever says. They actually wanted him to get evaluated because they thought something was mentally wrong with him. He says till this day, he'll see that same person walking around looking exactly like him and will have the same outfit on as him. So then he does something even more dangerous and he thinks that playing with a Ouija board will help him like close whatever portal he may have opened when him and his friends went into that haunted house. Big mistake. So he says once he starts playing around with the Ouija board, that person that he saw that always looked like him pretty much came over there and started dragging the cursor across the board, spelling out, I want to be you. So now he's pretty much stuck and he doesn't know what to do. Now, he still does not believe in God, which is fine. You don't have to believe in God. But when it comes to stuff like this, you may want to. I'm going to just say that. Now, I just want you to know that that thing that you're describing is not a person. That is demonic. And it can also be a mimic. So I don't even know what to say to you because this is actually crazy. This is one of the craziest stories I've ever heard in my life. And I got some crazy stories myself.